welcome to another episode of the Bleep Bloop podcast. My name is Retrolag. Now, I will forewarn you that I'm recording this in the morning, so we're going to take a little bit of a more chill approach. Still going to bring you some good information, a good topic nonetheless. October is upon us. Halloween is right around the corner, and it is the time of year that I like to call HAUNTOBER. HAUNTOBER started when I would live stream quite often and play games, and I wanted to have a theme. I will admit there were some years that were better than others, but this year I wanted to do it different in that I don't just stream anymore. When I do videos, and I also do podcasting. So I wanted to bring that whole element into the different mediums that I create content on. And on this episode, I'm talking about scary games, but more specifically, really only 4 games that I've played. So my knowledge in this area isn't that vast, but are these games that I've played scary? So are these games scary? Now, the 4 games I'm going to talk about: number 1, Silent Hill 2; number 2, Alien Isolation; number 3, Outlast; and the last one, Resident Evil 7. I will preface this by saying that I haven't actually finished 3 of the 4 games, so my knowledge is very limited on those games, but I did complete one of them, which I will talk the majority about. So let's talk about the game that I didn't last even an hour in, and it's no pun intended. That game is Outlast. When I saw it, I knew it was going to be scary. And I've talked about this before on another podcast episode, which was horror games are fun, but scare me. Where the concept of the game essentially is, from what I gather, is you are investigating what's going on in this manor, I guess, if you will, or this psychiatric ward. In any case, all I know is it's part of like some government experiment program or something along those lines. I still don't even know the whole synopsis or context of what the game is about. What I can tell you is I did not last when I played that game at all. I did not last. I literally did not outlast. I think it was because initially, it sets up like most games. You start in some, setting that is dark and ominous and scary, and you're the only one out there, and you have limited tools or abilities or things you can do. So, they set the tone right there. By the time I got to, there's one part, the psychiatric ward, I absolutely just couldn't play it no more. I just couldn't do it. I think what it was the cliche, expected jump scares that come from those types of games were enough for me to say, you know what, I'm good. I can't do this. And now, in all fairness, I would say I probably could go back and play that game now and probably would be fine, as long as the lights are on and it's during the daytime. But at that point when I played it, I was trying to play it at night. I had the lights on, but it just, with headphones on and first time diving in, and at that point I wasn't even attempting to play horror games. I wasn't even trying to do it at all. So being able to make that that initial attempt was a big step for me. Now, the reason why I think it's different now is because, I don't look at the games the same way anymore. I've seen a few people speed run them, kind of seen what they're about. I've seen the trailer for the new one, Outlast Trials. So it doesn't look as scary, if you will, as it was when I first saw it. I think it was because I went in with this preconceived notion that it was going to be about like things that I just don't prefer to ingest, like anything, which is a whole nother topic. But anyways, I digress. So now that I know a little bit more about the game, it's like, okay, I think it has a different tone, has a different vibe. It's something I would be willing to try. So yeah, Outlast, I think when I say it's scary, I think it was only scary in the sense that I didn't really know what the game was completely about. I have a better understanding of it, which gives me a different perspective, which almost lends itself to me wanting to really try to play the game as opposed to before. So Outlast is on my list for sure. What do you think? Do you think Outlast is scary? the next game that to me wasn't scary, it's just I didn't play it enough at all, and that was Resident Evil 7. And I'm gonna tell you why. When I first decided to play it, I was gonna play it on VR, and that was a mistake because I didn't use VR that much, and I'm playing a game that is already spooky in itself, or has spooky elements, I should say. So when I tried to play it, I mean, I barely made it into the house at the beginning of the game, and I was getting very bad motion sickness, so I stopped using the VR and I tried to just play it normally, controller in hand, and go from there. And I couldn't do it because I just didn't feel good. Now I did try, I will say that was a little bit of that, but what it also was you had to do certain actions in the house when your girlfriend, who's essentially possessed, is trying to attack you. You know, you got the chainsaw and it's just not phasing her. She pushes you down the ladder, you fall. I had to keep repeating that because I just kept dying, and that is one thing in games, especially games like that just bother me, because you have to go through the cutscene again, you have to get to that point again, and then when you don't even get enough gameplay at that point, it just kills the whole mood for me. It kills the whole vibe for me. I know that game is great, you know, it gets a lot of fanfare. I wasn't able to experience that because of that game mechanic that really just killed the vibe for me, in addition to me attempting to play it in VR, which I would not suggest. If you don't play a lot of VR or you get motion sickness, I do not recommend that. Resident Evil 7, I don't think that was scary either. I just didn't get enough time to experience it. So on to the next one, Alien Isolation. Now, out of these 3 games so far, I got the furthest in this one, but still didn't get that far with it. When I first attempted to play it, it was the same as Resident Evil, or it was the same as Outlast. It wasn't the jump scare stuff that scared me. It was the ominous environment, the spooky environment, the sound design associated with the environment. And I think that was the same thing with Outlast. I don't think that as much with Resident Evil 7, but it definitely was with Outlast. Alien Isolation, but it's such a great game, and I love the Alien universe. I love that universe. I love the movies. I've listened to, I think, 4 audiobooks, tried playing that game, and I will go back and try to play that game again. I guarantee it, because I just want to be immersed in that environment. But what did it for me, once I got past that initial fear, was the same thing that happened with Resident Evil 7. The way that game is based is the AI, the alien, gets smarter based off your movements. So if you have the same patterns, it's going to essentially adjust and account for that and not be in the same spots. So there was this one part where I got really far on, and I just kept dying, and I kept dying, and I kept dying. So I couldn't progress any further. So it just made me very upset, and I didn't get a chance to finish it. And I think I did try to play that during my first or second Hauntober. So, you know, as you can tell, it's just by off, you know, me saying that, it's probably obvious that I haven't finished that game yet. So that's another game for me, but I did get much further in that than I did in the other 2 games. So Alien Isolation, I think in terms of my scare or scary scale, I would say it's higher up on the scale than the other 2 because of its overall feel. You know that it's not some demon possessed zombie thing. It's a creature, you know, it's an alien life form from another planet that is an apex predator that is hunting you, and you're on a spaceship in the middle of space with no one else, and not to mention AI droid or beings, synthetics, that are also there trying to kill you. You know, so like you're dealing with both of those elements. So for me, it's higher up on the scary scale, but not scary in the sense of, oh, these jump scares, or oh, it's so gory. No, I definitely don't think that at all. And the last game on this list that I actually completed, and I loved this game, and that was Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 you know, it's an older game, of course, so graphically it doesn't measure up to these others, but you know, I think you look past that once you get into the story. I mean, the sound design, the environments, the characters themselves and their stories and their involvement are all great elements that just make a great compelling story. Now, I will say, you know, there is some wonkiness in the characters and or the enemies, you know, the bad guys, the creatures that you battle, but I think once you look past that, the story just immerses you so much that you want to get to the next part of what the story is, because you're trying to really figure out what is really going on. And I know this is an old game, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't played it. But when you do get to the end and you find out like what really happened, it just blows you away. It's like, what? Like, and I kind of got that vibe a little bit as I progressed through, but I still didn't know. I didn't know what to expect. It's such an amazing game, and I'll tell you the truth, I'm scared if they redo that game, like if they remake it with today's graphics, because it's such an amazing game and story that to retell it but with more improved visuals, it just brings a whole new element that you could sense when that game came out. Like, I'm pretty sure that people that played that game when it first came out were probably freaking scared, but by the end of it you were enveloped by the storyline. So for me, Silent Hill 2 I would say that Alien Isolation, I think, is scarier based off the elements I've already stated, but I think an overall better story, or well, not better story because I haven't completed Alien Isolation, so that wouldn't be fair to make that statement. What I'll say is, from playing Silent Hill 2, I couldn't understand why it is a great horror game, because it plays on psychological fear, you know, and there is that fear of the unknown, and you're trying to figure that unknown within the game, and you're battling your own demons and nightmares that exist in your psyche. So for that reason, I think that is a scary game. So yes, Silent Hill 2 is my number one on my list. I do want to immerse myself in more horror games because I really did love horror movies when I was a kid, and I talked about this before on another episode, but I think being able to play horror games gives a different vibe, gives a different aspect. Now, there are some games that I'm just going to stay away from because I'm not a huge fan of certain gore aesthetic, certain gore design. I do like it in some elements, and I also stay away from other themes that, you know, sometimes I feel like don't necessarily need to be in a game, but that's another conversation for another time. In any case, those are games that I think have scary elements, but I don't know if I would define them as the scariest. What do you think though? Have you played these games? Have you completed them? When you did, how did you walk away feeling with them? If you want to leave a comment on whatever platform you're listening on, by all means, make sure you leave a review on the podcast if you like the topics that I talk about. And if you want to follow me on social media, at Real Retrolag, RETR0LAG on Twitter, same handle on Instagram, and on Facebook I have Retro's Neighborhood, RETR0, Neighborhood, so you can leave comments there as well. I also have YouTube, Retro Plays Games, where you can catch gameplay footage as well as some of my shorts and stuff. And in any case, y'all, I'm gonna leave this episode like I always say, peace.